Hi, and welcome to the Travel Couch with House of Travel. I'm Jeff Leckey, and I'm joined on the Travel Couch today by Belinda Clark, Sales Manager for Seabourn in New Zealand.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Hi, Belinda. We're going to take you on a little journey today, and so there are going to be some opportunities for you to answer some quick polls. And we're also going to, if you do have any questions, there is a chat box. You can pop your questions in the chat box, and one of our expedition travel experts will answer those questions for you as we go along. So please feel free to drop questions as we go. The expedition cruising is a real passion of mine, and I know it is of yours too, Belinda. But what we'd like to do is sort of dispel a few myths today and tell a few secrets and show exactly what expedition travel has on offer. And that is a combination of warm water and cold water travel.
Yeah, look, and I always say, think of it as a luxury safari at sea. You know, going from, of course, our cold climates, whether that be the Arctic, you know, the north of Scotland, right down to the Antarctic. But we have some fantastic warm water options as well. And that might be, you know, the Amazon River, that might be heading through the Pacific to the Kimberleys. So, you know, and they're all each diverse in their own way.
I think this little map really gives us a good feel for all those different zones of the world that you can actually do expedition travel in. It's quite fascinating, isn't it?
And a lot of them are really hard to reach places that, you know, the only way that you can get there is by Zodiac or by a very small ship.
Wow, let's dig a bit deeper. So, hey, close to home, here we are in the Kimberley.
Isn't it beautiful? So we are in the Kimberleys from May through to the end of August. And this is up close and personal with a lot of these incredible, you know, diverse wildlife that you can see there, but also the local communities. And we have a really special partnership in the Kimberleys. And this is a great example in Jar Island of the smoke ceremony. And I think you've had this before.
Yeah, I think they call it Welcome to Country, but if you haven't experienced this, it is absolutely fascinating. It's a real insight into the Aboriginal culture, but they light the eucalypt leaves and they do the ceremony. It is quite special. There's something actually extra special happened with the with this region, with Seabourn.
Yes, so Seabourn Pursuit was actually christened in the Kimberleys last year. So we really do have a deep connection with the traditional landowners. So the Warrnambool Gambiera traditional landowners actually christened Seabourn Pursuit, and it was an incredible ceremony, which a lot of our guests actually got to experience as well. But we do this in Jar Island, and it really is that special, authentic experience for our guests when they come into the Kimberleys.
I think this image also gives you a really good idea of how you get from the ship to the shore in the Zodiac fleet.
So the Zodiacs are just hanging about there. You can see some of our guests in the background there, so they would have come across and landed on the beach very easily. And they're just waiting there in order to head back later on.
Fabulous. Hey, let's take a little look at the Kimberley, because it's certainly a beautiful region, and I think it deserves a little bit of video right now.
It really does.
Let's transport you. To say, it's quite nice to see that infinity pool on the back there. Certainly in the Kimberley, it gets pretty hot, so it'd be nice to go for a dip.
It does. Very, very handy to have that infinity pool, because of course you don't want to be swimming in the ocean in the Kimberleys. We have lots of friendly predators around, so the infinity pool is very good.
But like for me, I have to admit to having a personal investment in that, because I'm heading to the Kimberley myself next month, and
very jealous.
I'm really looking forward to the horizontal falls and seeing Montgomery Reef just appear out of nowhere.
Yes,
yeah.
Ashmore Reef, you know, those red sandstone cliffs, you know, and just the wildlife.
And lots of Aboriginal rock art.
Yes, yeah, the art, absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And all that all the time escorted by your Seabourn expedition leaders.
Yeah, so they're constantly giving you information on the history. You know, they've got those connections to a lot of the traditional landowners there as well. Pill farms is something else that
you could come back with a souvenir.
Yes.
Yeah. And the interesting thing, when the ship leaves the Kimberley and she starts her journey down to Antarctica, she does a really interesting route, heads up through Melanesia, New Guinea, the Indonesian islands. And this image, I think, really shows you the meeting of East meets West almost, isn't it? It's the Zodiacs traveling up the river to those remote communities.
Yeah, and a lot of these communities, the only way that you can get there is by Zodiac, very hard to get to by land. And we're taking our guests obviously on the Zodiacs right up, right into the heart of some of these villages. You are greeted, as you can see, with this incredible ceremony. And these are really once in a lifetime experiences, I think. And, doing these expedition in the South Pacific is just so different to traveling on land or traveling by big ship, obviously, as well.
And how many people in say the Kimberley, how many people would be on board the ship?
So we've got a total of 264 guests that we have on board.
Wow, so there's no big queues to jump on and off.
There's no big queues, and look, we do take people generally across at different times, so you're never going to have lots of people on land at once. That particular ceremony that you saw there, all of our Zodiacs did go in up that river together because we had one big amazing ceremony from the local villages.
Wow, that's a real dinner story, a story for dinner time, isn't it, really?
Yes.
Yeah. And obviously in the Pacific, to be able to kayak through these pristine waters and reefs, and your expedition guides there with you all the time.
They're there every step of the way, and you might be kayaking, one morning, you might be snorkeling on a reef in the afternoon. And if you think of areas like the Conflict Island as well, the world's most biodiverse reef, it does not get any better snorkeling in these regions.
This is like you can't get here any other way than by ship.
They are hard to reach places. Yeah.
Let's take a little look at what we can expect on this Pacific leg of the journey. I noticed there we got a little glimpse of the submersible.
Yes, and I look forward to talking about that coming up. So submersibles is, I guess it's like a luxury scuba without getting wet.
Oh, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. One of the highlights of this next leg of the journey, so the ship's left the Kimberley, she's headed up through Melanesia and those Indonesian islands, and she's gone to Fiji. And then the next leg from Fiji, you can either jump off in Fiji or you can choose to stay on board. And then from Fiji, she heads across the remote Pacific to make a summer home in the Antarctic. But the remote Pacific, this isn't your normal islands. It's like 3 islands in Pitcairn, and it's the wonders of Rapa Nui.
And we chop and change this particular itinerary across the Pacific every year. So every year it's a little bit different. And there's a lot of sort of pinch me moments that you get across all of our expedition destinations, but Easter Island is absolutely top of that list. It really doesn't get in any better than seeing these incredible statues, that are thousands of years old. They're actually made from hard volcanic rock. Obviously, you've got your expedition leaders there every step of the way giving you information and the history of what you're seeing. But I think this destination in particular is very, very special. And really, the only other way to get there is to go to Chile and fly back, right? So expedition travel is definitely the way to explore these destinations. Who wouldn't want to put themselves in that picture? I know I would. There are sort of certain components that make up an expedition, aren't there? And I think this slide really gives us a good idea as to the different things that you can expect. Yeah, and this is our way of, I guess, connecting our guests in each of our destinations. So whether it be, the Zodiacs, and we've seen a few images of the Zodiacs heading into those remote rivers. It might be heading in to do an ice landing in Antarctica. They're really easy to get on and off. Our kayaks, which is an optional excursion, and these are fully led by our expedition leaders. And a kayak is a way of really getting up close and personal, whether it be to one of the icebergs, whether it be really close to, a leopard seal or penguins, a submersible. Submersibles are fantastic. So these really open a whole new world under the water for you. Of course, hiking, and whether it be hiking on Easter Island or hiking in Antarctica or the Arctic, again, you're fully led by our expedition team. you know, and there's hiking for different abilities, of course, as well. So you can take it easy if you need
And I think you sort of hit the nail on the head when you said it earlier, that expedition travel is like a safari at sea.
It is.
So important to note that when you enjoy that type of travel, that exploring nature and exploring destinations, it's great that hiking's an option, right?
It is. Yeah. And I always say with an expedition, expect the unexpected. No 2 days are ever the same with the expedition, and in terms of what you're seeing with wildlife, what the weather's going to be like as well. So you just never know what you're going to get. But of course, wildlife, you know, it's not just all about, you know, polar bears in the Arctic, or, you know, penguins in the Antarctic. You know, there's a lot of bird life that you're going to see as well. You know, when we talk about the Kimberleys, you've seen some of those great images. So there's really something for everyone with wildlife.
Oh, for sure. I've been fortunate to go to Antarctica twice myself.
Very jealous.
And one of the things I couldn't believe was, as soon as we left South America, was those albatross that travel with you down to the peninsula, and they're enormous, aren't they?
Absolutely huge.
And also what made it for me was those expedition guides on the deck with you at all times. They were spotting and they were saying, right, okay, look over there, there's this going on. And you also had the opportunity to almost participate in a science experiment. You could log your whale sightings on the Whaletail app, and you could log your bird sightings, and they covered all that. Was amazing.
Yes, you can. And even actually when you're inside your suite and you might be having a cup of tea or a little nap in the afternoon, you can actually turn on your television, and we've got the most incredible Cineflex TV cameras at the front of the ship, and they can span miles and miles ahead, so you can actually see what's ahead.
Wow.
So you really do not miss anything.
I mean, expedition travel is about being in the destination and actually experiencing it up close and personal, isn't it, really?
I have to say, the first day, I actually didn't want to go to sleep that night because I didn't want to miss anything.
Totally. Like this image to me, I'd go, is this Scott and Shackleton or is this Seabourn?
No, this is Seabourn, and this is start of the season. We were heading into Charlotte Bay, which is on the west coast of Antarctica. I think we're about 60 degrees south of the Antarctic Circle. So obviously at the start of the season, there's still quite a lot of ice shelves around. And actually on our next slide, it's actually really a great image to see of us heading in and cutting through the ice. So we've got ice strengthened hulls. So our expedition team will carefully sort of suss out the area, and the captain make sure it's safe and secure. And you get to get off and actually wander along on the ice. You might have a little glass of champagne or a special Seabourn moment at the front of the ship.
Look, Seabourn moments. I've been fortunate to travel Seabourn myself, and those Seabourn moments are just something else, aren't they?
Yep. Always when you least expect it as well.
Yeah, something really out of the box, something to talk about when you get home. Let's take a little look at Antarctica, because I think, you know, you have to see the images in person to actually really appreciate this. So we'll just take you on a little ticket.
You see that actually because they say Antarctica is one of those places that is a once-in-a-lifetime destination. You've been twice, I've been once. I definitely want to go again when you see images like that.
Sign up in a heartbeat.
And
absolutely.
Every season is a little bit different, isn't it? So if you're there at the start of the season, you've got your ice, which you can cut through, a little bit more snow that you might be walking through if you're there in February. Like was your last time that you were there, you see the chicks hatching.
Oh, the early season, the wonder of the penguins nesting, you know, they're fighting over little stones, they're pairing up, they're making a lot of noise. And then, at the end of the summer, those fledgling chicks just crazy running around everywhere. This kind of image here really brings it home for me, because you're right there in the destination. Nature's real, live, and there it is on shore. It's not a theme park. It's real, right there.
It's not. And you could be standing on the deck having a hot chocolate. You can literally smell the penguins. You're that close.
And they love their krill.
And they are a bit smelly.
The difference here is, you know, because people have asked us a lot in the past. I'm thinking I might do a cruise down to Antarctica, and they look at those big white cruise ships. I mean, really on those, they can't land. They just sail past. Now, when Seabourn's in Antarctica, how many passengers would be on board then?
Well, we've got 260 total guests on board.
Right.
You know, often we're sailing around 250, but generally when you're actually landing, we generally only take 50, 60 across at a time.
And maximum 100 people on the ice at any
Yes.
one time, right?
Yes.
So, but what I found interesting was there may be 100 people who've gone ashore, and then the other 100 people maybe around the bay in Zodiacs.
Yeah, so
learning
generally
about
you
the
might
ice.
do a landing in the morning, you might do Zodiacs in the afternoon, or they'll sort of chop and change. Equally, if they see wildlife, if you've got humpback whales that all of a sudden they see come into the bay, you know, they'll say, hey, look, everyone, let's get on the Zodiacs, let's go and see these.
Yeah, and the opportunity to kayak in Antarctica, I know that you got to experience this yourself, but certainly when you go, the last time I was there was February, and it's like a whale highway, which is really gives you those shivers. It's quite amazing, and you can hear that whale blow all around you. But out in the kayak, you really get to experience
You are
it
so
up
up
close.
close and personal to them. And again, you never know what you're going to see.
Yeah.
You know, we saw a leopard seal chasing a gorgeous little gentoo penguin that sort of leaped over in front of our kayak, which was just amazing. But, you know, you get really close to a lot of the icebergs as well, which are amazing. But every step of the way, you've got your expedition leader there as well.
Yeah, I think the little image on the left here kind of is a tabular iceberg. And again, before I went to Antarctica, I wasn't overly familiar with this terminology, but as you cross the Drake and you head towards the Antarctic Peninsula, these are almost the first thing that you see, aren't they?
And it's so exciting. I remember just standing here looking at these icebergs going, wow. And then you see more and more and more and more, but they are still amazing.
It's the scale, isn't it, really? It's quite daunting. And we talked a little bit earlier about submersibles. Now, Seabourn carries 2 of these on your 2 expedition ships. And tell us a little bit more about these.
Yeah, so our submarines, or, you know, we often call them submersibles, so they can actually go to a depth of 1,000 meters. They're certified to. So very safe, very secure. You've got a pilot who is in charge, one of our expedition leaders, and we can take up to 6 guests at a time. And this is really getting underneath to completely undiscovered areas. And if you see, we've got that glass sphere on the front of the submersible. So once you're actually under the water, that sort of disappears, and you've got your own beautiful aquarium right in front of you. And you never quite know what you're going to see. It might be an octopus, or it might be you know, giant shoals of krill. In fact, last year, the ship was actually off the coast of Chile, and they went down, I think they were on our Falklands cruise, and they went down to about 150 meters, and the pilot could see something, and they said, well, let's go and investigate. And it was actually a ship that sunk 110 years ago, a German warship in 1910, I think it was, from the First World War, and it was undiscovered, and they discovered it.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it really was.
This is an optional extra, isn't it? What sort of price would you pay for this?
It is. So it's $1,000 US. So it's a little bit of an investment, but it's probably one of those once in a lifetime investments that you're going to do that you will talk about forever. My husband did it, and he said it was the most incredible experience. And he has pictures on the home screen of his phone that he pulls out at every dinner party to talk about.
Wow. Well, we've got a little offer for you coming up shortly where we can help with some of that cost. But right now, let's take a little poll. If you can just click on the little poll icon there and just tell us, when you were in Antarctica, would you actually do the submersible dive? Is that something that you might like to do, to experience the underwater world of Antarctica or the Arctic?
Would you do a submersible, Jeff?
Would I? There wasn't an opportunity on the ships that I went on,
well,
but, you know, I have to say, if I've made that journey again, I think I probably would. Yeah. It's so unique, isn't it?
It is.
And do you book that on board? You have to wait till you're on board?
No, you can pre-book it before you go.
Okay. Yeah. And again, obviously, weather and wildlife dependent.
Yes. But it's not just in Antarctica that you can do that. There's areas of the Arctic, obviously, you know, northern UK, and also the South Pacific.
Yes. It doesn't operate in the Kimberley,
no,
but it does in some of those other parts of the South Pacific. Well, I think we're quite unanimous there. Look at that. So it looks like the submersible wins the poll this time around.
Good to see.
Good on you, Kiwis. Always intrepid. This is a fabulous vision, really, of what it's like on a Zodiac. And I think it's important to note here that the person driving the Zodiac is actually one of the expedition team. So they're like a marine biologist or an ornithologist or a historian or a somethingologist.
Glaciologist, yeah, you name it. And they're incredible. They're the elite of their field. And And every day you might get a different expedition leader. So every day you're going to get little tidbits of different bits of information. And they're just so fantastic, so friendly, so down to earth. We've got a few Kiwis actually working on board as our expedition leaders. As you can see, that's a great example of the Zodiac and just how easy it is, how comfortable it is to sit there, and take in this information and scenery.
And it's safety first, right? So I remember when we were on the Zodiac one time, and they're watching all the time the environment, and there was a huge crack in the distance, and next thing we're zooming off and we're like, oh, what's happening? She went, there's a wave coming, because there's a glacier carved over the bay. So yeah,
it was fantastic. We got to see that actually as well, which was amazing.
And penguins.
Love
Can't
penguins.
not talk about penguins.
Gentoo, Adelie, Chinstrap.
My favourite.
They are equally gorgeous. They're very curious. They would just, jump up and down on your feet if they could. You do obviously have to keep that, safe distance with them, but they often don't get the memo, do they?
No, they don't. And they make their own little penguin highways, don't they? But the expedition crew, they go ashore first and they dig a separate highway for the passengers. You mustn't use the penguin highways.
Yes.
The problem is the penguins didn't get that memo either.
No.
So within a few minutes, they realized that the highway we've got is way better than theirs, and they all start using the expedition highway.
Yeah, I enjoyed just sitting at a obviously safe distance, just watching them trotting along. They're just gorgeous, chatting to each other, finding their pebbles, finding their friends.
I mean, and the expedition team, such an important part of expedition travel, isn't it? I mean, I really enjoyed that they even join you at dinner.
Yeah, look, they are absolutely the life and soul of your expedition experience. And, you meet them at the very start. They're there at the gangway, greeting you as you come on the ship. They're there on the first day when you're crossing the Drake Passage, giving you information about, what the weather's looking like for your voyage, or answering any questions, fitting you with the jackets, sitting with you at dinner, having a drink with you out on the front of the ship as they're talking about the humpback whales sort of breaching. So they're very much part of the experience.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, we've got some quick questions which a lot of people have sent in beforehand, so we'll just work our way through these, because the big number one question was, how cold is it really?
Well, how long's a piece of string? No, look, I think the biggest thing when you're heading to the polar regions is to be prepared. I have to say, I was there in November at the very start of the season, so we were expecting really cold weather. I got sunburnt every day, and I ended up discarding layers every day because I probably had too many on. So I would say for Kiwis, take definitely a layer of merino, and maybe a polar jumper to wear underneath. But as part of your expedition, you have included amazing Helly Hansen waterproof jackets, which have a really lovely puffer jacket underneath, so that keeps you nice and toasty warm. A bit of a tip, I actually took a balaclava, which looks a bit funny, but very handy for the days where it's particularly windy, and they're equally good. Yeah,
I agree. It's all about layers. A lot of people think that you need to be super fit. You need to be able to climb mountains and do a 8 to 10 week fitness program before you go. Is that true?
No, not at all. If you are going the early season, then you need to expect that you're walking through a bit more snow, but you can absolutely take it easy if you need to, and our expedition leaders are there to help you as well, obviously.
For sure. And there's always a choice, isn't there? Because I remember when we went ashore, you could go to the close penguin colony, or you could take the hike up the hill to the more distant one. It was your choice, no pressure.
That's right. And if you didn't want to get off one morning, you don't have to. In the afternoon, you could take the choice of doing one of the Zodiac, cruises as well.
And I think one of the things I like about expedition is there's no real set itinerary, because it's all dependent on weather and wildlife and opportunity. And so you go with an open mind and surprises will open up in front of you.
You really do. Like I always say, no 2 days are ever the same on expedition. And, it's exciting each afternoon when you have your sort of briefing at 5 o'clock to go and sit there and hear, gosh, where are we going to tomorrow? Because you really don't know. It's all very weather dependent. And, the captain, the expedition leaders, they are there to give our guests the very best experience. And they're going to be constantly looking at where they've heard wildlife sightings, where these humpback whales are hanging out, or can they get to sort of 66 degrees south of the Antarctic Circle, and give our guests an amazing experience.
And the Windy app will become your best friend.
Yes. And those navigational charts, we have an area called the Bow Lounge on the front of the ship, so you can actually watch this real life weather systems as they come across.
Amazing, isn't it? Getting in and out of zodiacs, any difficulty with your party?
No. So actually one of my friends that was traveling with us had a double hip replacement about 6 months before we went. And look, we've got staff there at both sides when you get on and off the zodiacs. When you get on the zodiac, it's right in the hull of the ship, so you're not open to the elements. As you could see, it was very easy, very stable on the actual zodiacs. And then once you get across to land, again, you've got 2 team members there for you as well. So
yeah, I'd agree.
We had wide variety of age groups on our expedition cruise, and that's fantastic.
And special gear, along with the amazing jacket that they provide for you, which you can keep.
You can keep. I wear mine skiing at Mount Hutt.
They also provide mud boots too, don't they? So you
Yes.
can't wear your own foot gear on the ice. You have to wear the supplied mud boots, which
Supplied mud boots, which are great. They're waterproof.
kind of suck to your leg, don't they? So the water doesn't get in.
They do, and they sit in our nice heated lockers. So when you get back off the ship, you wash them down and you pop them back in there. We've also got heated lockers as part next to your wardrobe, next to your walk-in wardrobe, which you can hang up your wet jacket and it'll be dry in no time.
Yeah, that's such a good innovation, isn't it? A little drying room in your own suite. Yeah.
Actually, talking about gear that you take along, I know you had a tip for the people watching today about some other handy things that you can take, such as glasses.
Yeah. If you're like me and you're optically challenged, the first time I went to Antarctica, I didn't have this tip, and it snowed, and I was forever rubbing snow off my glasses, and that was not a good idea. Got the tip. Second time around, ski goggles, right? Take a pair of ski goggles, wear them over your glasses. Before you go, spray them with Rain-X. And then when you're in the Zodiac, if the water hits your face, it just runs off. And then you're not forever taking your glasses off to clean them.
Yeah, I took my ski goggles, and I have to say it was very handy. My husband was very jealous because he just had his sunglasses and they were constantly fogging up. So
best tip you can give anyone, I reckon. And people say, is it just penguins? No, hey, it could be just penguins for me. I love them, but so much more than just penguins.
It is, whales, so much bird life as well. And it's really is on board, it's your own community as well. So, the beauty of not only seeing the wildlife, but it's also the community that you're with on the ship, the experience with the expedition leaders, and getting to share those experiences with other guests as well, which is amazing.
And the highlight for many, the dreaded polar plunge or the fun polar plunge?
Look, I think it's absolutely part of the expedition experience. We don't do it. It is very much weather dependent. I was really lucky on our particular cruise that we had fantastic weather. So I may be in one of those images if you can spot me. I was super excited when I jumped off the side of the Zodiac. I was less excited when I hit -5-degree Antarctic waters, but what an experience.
So we're going to do one last quick poll. Would you take the polar plunge if it was offered on your departure? Now remember, expedition travel is weather and wildlife dependent, so these don't always happen on every departure, but if they happen on yours and you get the chance, what's your tip? Would you take it?
Do it.
Absolutely do it. Remember, they do have a little tether on you as well, so they can actually pull you back ashore. So it looks like we've got a bit of a 50-50 split here. Some would do it, some wouldn't. I reckon when you're in the moment and you're in the destination, I think that might tip your hand.
One of our friends traveling with us, she wasn't going to do it at the start of the cruise when we talked about it, and she jumped with us, and she's so glad that she did.